If you were born within the last 3 to 4 months, chances are you've at least heard of the TV show Pimp My Ride, to some extent. But in case you haven't, between 2004 and 2007, MTV ran a TV series, I know, big surprise, where a car in poor condition would be modified in true 2000s fashion. However, the show itself isn't my focus here, rather, the spin-off games. Being a licensed game is one of the first warnings that we're given. The second warning is the publisher behind it, Activision. The first game in this series was released by the now defunct Newcastle-based studio by the name of Technics, the studio behind legendary titles such as Street Racing Syndicate and, I'm not making this up, Big Mother Truckers 2 Truck Me Harder. It was initially released in 2006 for the PlayStation 2 and Xbox 360, weirdly not receiving an original Xbox release, or slightly less weirdly, not receiving a PlayStation 3 release, followed by a PSP release in 2007 and a Wii release in 2008. This was then followed by a sequel in 2009 for the DS and PS2, made by a different studio under the name of Virtuos, who at the time didn't have any involvement in any notable games, unless you consider the leapfrog game SpongeBob the Clam Pre as a notable title. The first version that I will be talking about today is the PSP version, as it is often dubbed as the worst version of this game. Although, a disclaimer before I begin, this is being run in an emulator, so I may not experience the performance issues that other people were reporting while playing this game. The game starts off by introducing us to a fictional Californian city called Pimp City, before promptly instructing you to name your profile, but for some reason this limits you to 6 letters, so I could not, unfortunately, name my profile Cuntbag, but I instead settled for the next best thing.
Alright, listen, the people of Pimp City love their rides.
Very surprisingly, Nokia is also in this game. I didn't think that they'd ever want their product to be associated with something of this low quality. The accessible area of this game is not big, although I'm given a series of events I can participate in. The nearest one, to me, was Hot Stepper. This is a rhythm game inspired minigame that involves you dancing next to your car while clicking the right button combination to score points. There are 3 different categories of point: busted, dope, and pimpin'. The next minigame event I did was called Cruise Control. The idea of this is to hold the right shoulder button and press 3 face buttons to impress a small crowd of people. However, when I tried this in real life, it wasn't as impressive as the game made it out to be. There are also bonus collectibles around the map that encourage exploration, but out of the main minigames, there's very little to do in this game to build up cash towards your budget for the car that you will be modifying, other than crashing into other cars for a small amount of money each time. My criticisms of this version of the game are as follows. The visuals, alongside looking awful compared to other PSP games, make me feel less like I'm in the US in the mid-2000s, and instead make me feel like I'm in Nagasaki on the 9th of August in 1945. The core gameplay loop of the game is very repetitive, and events feel unrelated to the rest of the game. The way cars handle in the game is absolutely horrific, and the gear shift logic in this game is also absolutely horrific. Although, after a repetitive cycle of crashing into as many cars as I could find, I'd reached the 5,000 budget and set off to, as the title suggests, Pimp a Ride. This is where a low-poly exhibit lists off his criticisms with the truck that is about to be modified to the point of where the owner won't believe it. This starts a significantly less boring segment of the game, with the objective to race around the area of the map that we are restricted to in order to buy modifications for the truck in a set period of time. The first shop I arrived at offered 3 wheel options, all of which having varying degrees of 2005-ness. The game then has a small task to do in order to install the part, and depending on how quick you are, this can allow you to get it for a lower price. The next shop had some interesting options to install in the car, such as a sewing machine, clothing racks, a catwalk, a different sewing machine, a fashion wall, a different catwalk, a dressing room, a sewing machine and a laptop, or a scene from Zoolander. Although, as I don't have a huge amount of money, I went for the clothing rack. The third shop sold entertainment accessories, one of which being a retractable plasma screen with the Pimp My Ride logo on it, but as all were expensive, I just went with a regular Radiohead unit. The fourth shop was a fairly standard paint shop, where I chose to respray the truck in red. And after re-entering the fireball from a drop nuke, I spun out in the truck, wasting more of the valuable time that I didn't have to get to the final shop where I'd be able to install a body kit for the truck.
You're almost out of time.
Even Exhibit was aware of my lack of time. With 6 seconds remaining, I barely reached it in time, and seeing the large amount of money that I had left over, I had bought the most expensive body kit that there was, and the ride was now thoroughly pimp. After delivering the truck, I got to see what the rival had built, and see how many visible polygons the pickup had on it, and according to the customer, the truck that I modified was banging, so I will take that as a compliment. After this cutscene, the game gives us a rundown on the stats I won on. Turns out I was right to install the most expensive body kit, as it's the only thing that I won on. Completing this let me see what other cars I could modify. One owner from new, never raced or rallied, no lowballers, I know what I've got. Weirdly though, I got to keep the customer's car for the next part of the game, so I guess it wasn't banging enough for her. I also unlocked a new segment of the map, while also locking an old segment of the map. Progression! There was also a new series of events unlocked, which were the exact same as the previous ones. Overall, this game was incredibly boring. You know a game is lacking replayability when by the second level, putting your emulator into turbo mode and driving at the speed of sound into a wall is more enjoyable than the game itself. Hopefully its sequel is more interesting. It has street racing in the title, so hopefully there's a racing mechanic in it. Absolutely nothing could have prepared me for what the fuck I am looking at right now. One huge improvement that I found right away in this version is finally being able to name my save what I want, without a 6-character limit, so I could finally fulfill my dream of naming my save Cuntbag. Being developed by a different studio did make me expect a somewhat different experience to the first game in this series, but this feels like a completely different game. The only resemblance this game has to the original is the Pimp My Ride logo and the car modifications that if you were to install them today, you would be considered a war criminal. The original format has been changed drastically from being a somewhat unique game based on the show to being a low-quality bootleg of Need for Speed Underground. The currency has been changed from dollars to Skrilla. I want to be Euthanaut. Rather than doing events around the map, the game gives you a set of free races followed by a special event, a format that would have been good if the driving wasn't so much of a chore. The physics cause every car to feel as if it's got suspension made out of blue tack, and for some godforsaken reason, the developers decided to use the right analog stick for both the brake and the accelerator. As modifications are a core part of Pimp My Ride, it does make sense that this game has the ability to mod your car. The customization menu is interesting, to say the least. I started by installing 22-inch wheels on my brown boat. That sounded absolutely horrific. Removing the last 3 numbers from the plate and adding a 1. I'm sorry. And installing a buffalo's horn on the front of it. Out of interest, I also checked what the rear kits would look like and very quickly lost the will to live. Seeing the front kits didn't help me either. I also decided to browse through what swagger options were available, and other than the buffalo horns, I could install deer horns, a pair of eyes, I don't think I can say that on YouTube, a chrome pig, a chrome duck, a police light bar, a small light, a surfboard, a snowplow, a searchlight, or a taxi sign. I also decided to see what I could make in the livery editor using an interesting selection of vinyls. And after breaking the Forza livery editor rules twice by recreating a rising sun poorly, and putting a male appendage on the roof, I know I am very mature, I moved on to install the performance parts I'd unlocked. After this, it was ready to race. Need I also remind you, this game is from 2009, the same year that Forza Motorsport 3 came out. This game, to me, looks absolutely horrific when compared to other games from the same decade, especially when you realise this was released well into the HD era. Although, to its credit, at least it supports analog input, unlike some other titles on this platform, and similar to Automo Modelista, the HUD changes based on what car you're in, plus, the special events actually sound interesting, in theory. And after winning a race in the boat, I unlocked the first special event. The first special event is an elimination race. The car in last place at the end of the lap is eliminated from the race. This would have been a fun concept if the AI actually knew how to drive, or if the races were actually enjoyable. After this, I unlocked some new modifications, did another tediously long cycle of races, and competed in another special event. This time, it was a time trial, which felt as if it took 5 hours rather than 5 minutes to complete. Around this point, the game was simply not enjoyable, and I couldn't force myself to keep playing due to how monotonous the races were becoming. This game was ranked as the 6th worst racing game on the PlayStation 2, according to Game FAQs. And if you were to ask me if I thought it deserved such a low rating, well, I'd not hesitate to say yes. It is genuinely one of the worst racing games I have ever played, alongside demake games such as Need for Speed Carbon Own the City for the Nintendo DS. As for the first game in this series, if you can even call this a series, I genuinely found it more enjoyable purely for the timed race across town to modify the customer's car, and if I'm being honest, out of the two games, that's the only part that I actually found engaging, even if it was poorly executed. Thankfully, I didn't have to pay for either game I played in this video, yet I still feel as if I am entitled to a refund for them. These games, to me, simply aren't good, and I think it's just best to leave it at that. If you've made it to the end, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you're new here, welcome to the channel. If you liked the video and want to see more similar content in the future, please consider liking and subscribing. By the time this video is out, I will likely have hit the 1000 subscriber milestone, and to commemorate this milestone, I'll be running a Q&A at the end of this month if enough questions are asked. So if you do have any questions that you would like to ask me, please leave them under any of my posts or videos. Thank you so much for watching.